Was there ever a fair election in Afghanistan?
We always try, but as everyone knows, we're still in war. So once you're in war, you don't see things going fair, you know. But we're hoping that one day we'll have really a fair election. But that all, again, depends on our security. So Germans are doing the most great job ever. Americans, they do as well in their own way. All these countries that they're involved, they take part and they do something somewhere. Yes, the drones, we don't appreciate that when civilians get killed. But we ask them many times, our government, to make sure this won't happen. And they're trying their best as well.
I kind of imagine, like, let's say you take the money, you want to meet them. Isn't the danger that when you give them the money, they were like, okay, we shoot you now, thanks for the money, we keep your uncle?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Really? All right, Jung Naiv, we're in Kabul now. And who are you?
I'm a midwife Farai. I'm, as you can see, my city is Farah, so that's why our family is called Farai. I work for the Office of President, Administration Office of President. And here you go, so good to see you.
What do you do for the president?
My main job is I'm director of the follow-ups, president's orders, whatever orders, or in AOP, which is Administration Office of President. I do all the operation, in charge of all the operations for AOP.
What did you do before?
Before this job, I was advisor to the Ministry of Interior, to the minister itself. Actually, 2 ministers I advised. And I was there for 2.5 years, running the front office for the minister or for the ministry. And I moved from there to the Office of President. Yep.
Have you lived in Afghanistan all your life?
No, I was about 17 or 18 that I left Afghanistan for UK. And I was back in 2008-9 for 2 years, and then went back. And then I was coming and going, you know, for the last couple of years. But last, let's say, 3 years, I'm full-time in Afghanistan.
Why did you leave Afghanistan? When you were young.
Why did I leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's obvious we fought Russians when Russians were around. And we were not allowed, my family, we were not allowed to go anywhere and stay and be part of Mujahideen. We fought, and after that, when Russian was gone, we were allowed to go and study. So I went to UK for further studies. Yeah.
So are you a Mujahideen?
At the time, I was Mujahideen, yes. But then, normally when the cause is finished, you know, like when the Russians were left, then so there was no really jihad, but still fighting, you know, a government, existing government. But so since we didn't do any jihad, I don't think there is any jihad to do in Afghanistan.
So tell our audience, explain to us what are or were the Mujahideen. Are they still around? Are they still a factor?
Mujahideen are those people, they fought against Russians. After that, when Russians were kicked out, there was still a government So Mujahideen fought that government as well, and then take over the country. So since Mujahideen are around, okay, they're ex-Mujahideen, but now they're local government, they're in local government, and they're everywhere. Yep.
Do Mujahideen share an ideology, or were they like just people uniting against the Soviets?
It was, you could say both. In Islam, when some other countries or non-Muslim attacks, then it says it's a jihad, like a holy fight. So this was holy fight. And then again, same time, it was like to free your country. So both ways. Some people did it because of it was a holy war, and some did it because somebody occupied their country. I think it's normal everywhere. If anyone attacked your country, you will fight back.
So the Soviets invaded in 1979.
Right.
Were you around there already?
I was very young at the time.
And did your dad was like, "Hey, you gotta fight with us," or could you shoot?
It started with our family when the Russian came. 18 members of my family was killed.
Killed.
Two of them were. That was the within the first 6 months of occupation. Two of them, they were MPs. One uncle from my father's side and one uncle from mother's side. They were member of parliament at the time. So once we were attacked like that, then we had to fight back. So we all family, everybody young, old, everybody started fighting against.
Wasn't there like an Afghan army that could fight the Soviets?
The Afghan army were with the Soviets. So that's why the local people that they were hurt and they were killed, their families, they went to the mountains and anywhere possible and start fighting.
Did you go to the mountains and start fighting?
I was, yes, I was. I was in a, but my job was training. So
you trained others?
I trained others. We were getting training, of course, but then training others as well. So everybody was doing their bit, and I did mine as well. So yeah.
Did you lose a lot of friends and family?
A lot, since, we're talking over 30, 35 or 33 member of family only.
Wow.
But then overall, I'm sure everybody knows that we lost millions within that war. Yeah.
What, you didn't die? Like, did you stay out of the actual fighting? Or did you fight Soviets as well?
We had this training center on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. But we had other groups, and they were operating in Farah, around Ilman, Kandahar, in that area. But we had this training center, we were based there. So, but we were fighting with the airplane, with the jet, because they knew we stay in this border, in these mountains. So we were fighting with them like that, but not like close personally myself, no.
Did they have airplanes, or did you guys have airplanes?
No, the Russians had, we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, our fighting was guerrilla fighting, because otherwise you cannot fight with jet and tanks and the rest of it, with big guns. So yeah.
Why didn't the Soviets win the war? I mean, they were were the second superpower in the world. Why didn't they win?
I know.
Or why did you win?
I don't know. First of all, everybody should see our history, because in our past history, we had so many superpower of their own time. They came to Afghanistan and then they lost. So this was not first time. I don't know why they made this mistake, but they faced the music.
But could you be more specific? Did they underestimate the Mujahideen?
They underestimated Afghan people. Afghan people, they will do anything to protect their own country, people. And they tried everything to fight with us, but then we all fight even with a knife or with a stick, with anything we had. We fought back. They killed us. We didn't care. We kept fighting them. So if anyone is so committed to their country, they will always win. So they tried everything. They had all big guns, name it, they had, but then they lost.
Was there ever a time that you thought, okay, I need to quit, this is too dangerous for me?
No, because when it comes to your to protecting your family, you never give up, or your country. So some people, they couldn't fight, they stay in neighboring countries, but then they always came back to fight. So I think nobody's gonna give up on their family or country.
Did you guys have outside help? Like I heard that the Americans armed you, is that true?
Americans, Europe, everyone, West, helped us at the time. And we appreciate that. Every little help really means something to our war. And I think they supported us really well. And we appreciate that. Without their war, probably it would have been like much longer. But with their support, we achieved. So it's always good to have a teamwork. So
how did they support you guys? With weapons, money?
Money and weapons, yeah. We had our leaders, Mujahideen leaders, and they supported them, and they supported Mujahideen, the rest.
Did they come to Afghanistan and give you the weapons, or did you meet them somewhere else?
No, everything was through Pakistan. Yeah, so they were...
Pakistan was your ally?
Yes, 100%. We were operating from Pakistan. They were supporting Pakistan and through Pakistan. And we were using that support.
Is it true that Osama bin Laden was one of the Mujahideen?
Yes, he was. At the time, a lot of people from Egypt, from all other Islamic countries, they were coming for jihad as well.
But it wasn't their country. They weren't Afghanis.
I know, but when it comes to jihad, holy war, there's no borders. And they came over to support, to help. Of course, not big quantity, but somebody, some people, they came over. And that guy was part of that plan, so, yeah.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
Too bad. I mean, he's very famous now. Did you? What do you think? Like after he got famous, like I remember him from the Holy War.
No, we knew he was around, but we were completely in a different part of Afghanistan, and he was in a different part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Soviets were in Afghanistan from 1979 till 1989.
89,
right?
yes.
And then they left.
They left, and
but the Afghan government that they worked with was still around, right?
that was still around, and they were supporting them. But then, after like 5 years or so, they lost as well. So.
And the Mujahideen took over.
Mujahideen took over, so they established a government.
Like a democratic government or regime?
Well, it was difficult to name it that way. It was all these different leaders, they made a unity government, which lasts for a couple of years. And then after that, Taliban came over.
Why did they come over?
Well, they were around, they were from that society. So it's I don't know how to call it, but there was a movement, and this movement, started, and then they pushed Mujahideen, and they took the country and then they ran it for like almost 6 years. Yeah.
Did the Mujahideen fight themselves? Like, was there internal fighting after everything?
You always, I think, after a long war, a bloody war, you always get problems, security-wise, and yeah, there were some problems between themselves.
So, I mean, but how did the Afghan people react? Like, were they welcoming the Taliban? Were they glad that the Taliban was coming?
Well, it's I wouldn't put it that way, because Taliban, they were not they were dictators. They dictate people, and everything was forced and completely different. We never had such a regime in our history. Yeah, not really. I mean, anything's by force, people will not really like that.
What was their ideology? Like, what did they base their regime on? Like, I mean, they must have explained it to the Afghan people, right?
Well, they were claiming that they are Islamic, they bring Islamic law. They impose Islamic laws in Afghanistan. And that's all they were doing. So they were not interested in anything else, just Islamic law, and that's it.
Ich habe hier ein Problem. Das ist ausgegangen. Turn off. I have to sound on this. Ja? Ja. Okay. But, aber was ist denn los? Ich weiß nicht. Es ist schon wieder auf 1 gesprungen. Okay. Just, okay.
I was expecting this, so I have an extra microphone, so nothing.
Okay. Just
Plan B.
So, but how could they, the Taliban, stay in power for so long? Like for 6 years, you said? Like from 1995?
Yeah, almost, like 6 years, but Pakistan was supporting them very much.
Why would they do that?
Um,
They were supporting you guys.
They were supporting us, and then they start supporting Taliban. So they were directly taking orders from Pakistanis. Yeah, I know, but that's how it was.
Did you have anything to do with Taliban, or have you left the country then?
I was long gone, yeah. So I was not around in Taliban's time.
So at some point they must have welcomed like Al-Qaeda, right? Because that was like when 9/11 happened.
When Taliban, they were in power at the time, Al-Qaeda was involved with them. But then when 9/11 happened, American asked for these guys, which Taliban refused. And that's why Americans, they took action, military action. And then pushed them away. All of them, they went to Pakistan. Yeah.
Did you think it was the right move back then for the West to come to Afghanistan? I mean, you saw with your own eyes that the Soviets failed. Now the next empire was coming?
Well, the next empire helped us in the beginning as well, so I wouldn't call it occupation because they helped us. And then when Taliban, they were here, they were supported by Pakistan. And then in the same time, a lot of other bad organization, terrorist organization, they settled in Afghanistan as well. So I think it was very important that somebody like Americans get involved and clear, Afghanistan from the terrorist groups. I think that was a good move.
Did you consider the Taliban a terrorist group?
At the moment, yes, they are, but at the time, back then, they were a bad regime. And then they had ties with terrorist groups as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I mean, the West came, they were foreign invaders, and you said like the Afghan people, like they always fight the
They helped us to push these terrorists away.
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda and whoever were here. There was a lot of organization, not just Al-Qaeda.
What else were there?
With different names from Pakistan, from different countries. They were here as well. But then we needed some support somehow to push them away from our country. And that's what Americans did.
And the Taliban were soon, like it only took like 1 or 2 months, right? That they were out of power?
Yeah, because there was a heavy war here, heavy bombing and all that. And they knew that Americans were like serious. And so I think that's why they had to leave.
Do you think it was a good idea that we stayed? I mean, we could have just bombed them away. The Taliban is out of power. There's a new government. We could have left like after 2 months and be like, hey, this is your country again.
Good question, but unfortunately, Pakistan was still here, our neighbor, with 2,000 kilometers, border. So they start sending those Taliban and terrorist groups again to fight us, and we still see that it's happening. They're still bombing us. They're still attacking us from across the border. Yeah.
What do you think was the strategy of NATO after, like, the regime fell, the Taliban regime fell?
Well, they came to see Afghan people. They create their own government, and they start moving on.
Did the Afghan people create their own government, or did we install Karzai?
Well, at the time, there was like small kind of election kind of thing. There was this meetings in Rome and in Bonn meetings. So obviously, West and Americans, they all helped us with this, because you need to have a government. You need to have a president, which was selected, and after that, when everything was better, they had an election. So we had an election since now. Like, this is the third election we have. Yeah.
But the who installed? Like you said, they were installed. Who decided on Karzai?
Western Americans, when they came to Afghanistan, when Taliban was pushed away, so there was a need for a government. And to start with, they supported Karzai. And after supporting him, they start a new government, they establish government, and then afterwards they start working on election. So I think that was important to do that at the time.
I mean, it's kind of weird that you like install like a new government with Karzai, and it's their job to like organize a new election where they themselves run for election. So there was also always the danger that they manipulate the election the way that they win that election, right?
They did, that's for sure. But at the time, there was no other party or anyone powerful to take part. So I guess they did it for themselves. And that's why he was in power for so long. And then at the end as well, he didn't want to leave. So yes, that's what happens, in countries with war and bad security. You always have this situation.
Was there ever a fair election in Afghanistan?
We always try, but as everyone knows, we're still in war. So once you're in war, you don't see things going fair, But we're hoping that one day we'll have really a fair election. But that all, again, depends on our security. Right now, we are looking forward to have an election maybe in 2 years' time. But with the security we see now, it's very hard, to project that we will have fair election. Because in a lot of provinces or cities, we still have war, which will be difficult to have a fair election or have an election in some parts.
Did Afghans know what kind of democracy the West was bringing to Afghanistan? Were they happy with our ideas of democracy?
Everybody's happy with those ideas, but then are they practical or not? That's a different question. We know this democracy works in Europe, in America. It should really work here as well. But we are not fit. We're still in war, and I don't think if you're in war, you can practice such democracy. But obviously, everybody loves that and wants that. But if you're in war, I don't know how it's going to work because it's very tough.
So that the practical issues with the ideas was that there's war or other issues as well?
It's the war. I think basically it's the war that we cannot have a proper democratic, or democracy or democratic government. So when you're in war, I think it's not going to work. So we blame this whole thing on the war and security and our neighbors as well, because our neighbors, they still fight with us indirectly. I would say directly.
Who are the neighbors?
The two neighbors, Pakistan and Iran.
Why are they interested?
I think you have to ask that question from them, because all we see is they have terrorists in their countries, in our borders, and then they're attacking us from their soil. And yeah, we keep asking, our president keep asking them. We try to negotiate with Pakistan. Anything we do, it fails. They don't really want a peace in Afghanistan. So we are stuck with this situation. So I hope West and Americans, they help us to stop Pakistan and Iran interfering in our country and to remove or destroy those terrorist organizations living in their countries and attacking us from their country.
So Pakistani and Iranian intervention or interfering is bad, but like
It
Western
destroys.
Western interfering is okay?
Westerns are helping us, okay? They're not sending terrorists to us. They're helping us with everything, supporting, fund, everything. They do that for us. They're building our country. But these neighbors, they fight with us. They destroy us, as you can see. Every day, these suicide bombers and the rest of them.
Who's Pakistan supporting? Taliban?
Taliban, all the terrorist groups.
Really?
Because
They don't care.
I mean, if I'm terrorist in your backyard and you supporting me, so who should we blame? That's what they do, you know. That's their backyard, and all the bad people are there, and they're coming every day attacking us.
Is Iran supporting the same groups like Pakistan?
Similar groups, we hear all the time. Yeah.
So, I mean, Germans ask themselves, I ask myself, like, why are we still here? Like, after 16 years, why is it still going on? I mean, the Soviets moved out after 10 years. Shouldn't we, like, give up and be like, okay, you manage?
And don't forget 9/11. If we leave any country, or in a country, a small city somewhere, without lawless, you know, like you leave it lawless, the whole country will be suffering from that city, because all bad people will stay there. So if West leave Afghanistan again alone, we'll be witnessing that a lot of tourists will come here, and then from our soil, they will attack West, everybody. So world is now small, okay? We should think the whole planet, whole world, we are like in the same boat. So we need to help each other, for our own sake. So we still need support. We still need German government support more than ever. Because, I know, everybody knows this war is not over. It doesn't matter, it's 16 years, it's not over. We still have terrorists here. And with even new groups like ISIS, you know. So you cannot literally just leave. You have to check and see if we still have problems here or not. If we have, then I don't think it's a good idea to leave. I think everybody should support us until this whole thing is completely out. Yeah.
Have we made mistakes?
I don't think so. Or maybe there's some mistakes which we don't know what kind of mistakes, but so far the whole idea is to support. It's not the West or Germany or Americans. They are not here to create problems. And if there is some problems or mistakes, that's not like on purpose, if there is. So it's war, and anything can happen.
I mean, Germans are here now to train, assist, advise. They help the Afghan army, get good training, know what to do. But there's also the Americans, like, who still do something else. I mean, there's still a lot of drone strikes going on. Civilians are dying. They're dropping the mother of all bombs. That doesn't seem to be a good idea.
Well, with Germans, I know, because I was working for the Ministry of Interior Affairs, so I know their programs. They always trained our police. They created a lot of, without their support, our police would have been nothing. So this is very crucial. It's very important for our country that the police should be trained well. And that's what they do. That's a good job. And I think we need more of these trainings. Without this training, it will be not easy for police to be doing policing. As we all know, police job is very important for our country. So if they are trained well, then we will have a good society. If they're not trained, then we will not have a proper democracy or a good, society.
True.
So Germans are doing the most great job ever. Americans, they do as well in their own way. All these countries that they're involved, they take part and they do something somewhere. Yes, the drones, we don't appreciate that when civilians get killed. But we ask them many times, our government, to make sure this won't happen. And they're trying their best as well. But yes, we get these civilians get killed. As we know, all the media knows, all the world knows.
Should they stop with the drone strikes?
It's a 50-50 thing, okay? We need these drones. It's very effective. But then on the side, we get civilians get killed as well, which we don't appreciate, and nobody. But we need every support, especially air support is very, very important. As you know, our country is all mountains, and you cannot go to certain part of these mountains by walking. So you have to use air support, and that's very important for us. But then we have casualty as well with this. We understand that as well.
I mean, I'm kind of thinking like every time you kill civilians, their families, I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to fight these Americans. No, the Afghan government. Like, that doesn't that civilian create new terrorist or opposition to the government and the Americans?
Why not? It happens. Definitely happens. But it's these problems are not big. It happens once in a while. We're trying to support those people, those families. Our government is supporting them. We are trying our best not to let people, go against these kind of things. But yes, neither Americans are happy with this situation, neither a civilian or the government.
What do you think when you hear that the biggest bomb has been dropped, the mother of all bombs? What did you think?
That's unfortunate, but as everybody was told that this was very important to do, yes, everybody's against big bombs, why there should be bombs in the first place. But sometimes you have to take some measures. But to this extent, I know it's not easy. We cannot reject this or accept this. So it's one of those situations.
So let's talk about your history. Like in Afghanistan, I heard that you were a negotiator at some point. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. I think when I was young, when I took part in this war, I think that helped me to come back to Afghanistan if there was a need, which there was. One of our ambassador, Afghan ambassador to Pakistan, was kidnapped in Pakistan, and that happened to be my uncle. And he used to be our commander. And then he was his driver was killed, and then he was taken away from Peshawar to North Waziristan. And Al-Qaeda had him. So when I heard the news, I left UK. I came straight after 2 days to Pakistan and started looking for him.
On your own?
On my own, yes. Then within months, checking all Pakistan border areas, I found out where he was, with whom he was.
How did you find out?
Meeting through a lot of people, asking them, visiting myself to these bordering areas. So I finally found that he was with Al-Qaeda.
Did you go to your government, Afghan government, like, Mr. Karzai, I found him, help me?
Yes, I sent the videos and everything, the contacts to our president, Karzai.
And he was happy to help?
Yes, in the beginning he asked one of his intelligence chief's deputy that he was negotiating for the country, for the government. Mm-hmm. But within a month, negotiations failed. And then in the process, Al-Qaeda killed that deputy as well. Mm. Then I came to President Karzai and I told him, okay, what's next? And then he asked his chief of intelligence, and then chief of intelligence couldn't do it. He said, you cannot do anything across the border. I volunteer. I said, I will do it. And then he agreed, and he made me in charge of this case. And then I went straight, made some contacts, I went to Waziristan.
So how do you negotiate with Al-Qaeda?
First, I try to find some Taliban, Haqqani network. So I found those people. So through Haqqani network, I met with these what's it called, Al-Qaeda group, mm-hmm. because they trusted Haqqani group, and they were only dealing with Haqqani. Mm-hmm. So through Haqqani network, I had to go and meet the chief commander of Al-Qaeda in North Waziristan.
How was that? How do you meet? Like, do you sit like this at the table, be like, hey, what's up?
Yes. Similar like that. First, I met Surajin Haqqani. Mm-hmm. And then through him, I had to go 2 or 3 times to Waziristan to arrange a meeting. So they arranged a meeting for me. So I sit with them, with the chief of Al-Qaeda, commander, and his deputy. So I sit and they say to me, well, I don't know why you're here. We will kill this guy because he works for Afghan government and they're helping Americans. We're doing jihad, and why are you guys not doing jihad? And I said, look, jihad was finished. Why you don't do jihad in some Arabic countries? There's a lot of Americans there. And then we had a little fight. Oh. So in the first meeting, and then they left. And then afterwards, I think they noticed that I'm not scared of them, because I told them, I said, look, when you send suicide bombers to Afghanistan, are they coming back? And they didn't reply. I asked again, and they didn't reply. The third time when I asked them, they get mad. They said, no, why you keep asking this kind of question? I said, I'm not going back as well. So I think this was the point where they learned that this guy is serious. And after an hour, the other guys, they came, they told me, oh, they're happy, they want to negotiate with you. So the negotiations started.
So what did you have to offer? Money?
They, first of all, they asked for a lot of money and a lot of detainees in Bagram, everywhere. So all these bad ones, badass.
Where British and Americans tortured them.
I'm not talking about those torture or not torture, but the one, it was Taliban that they were captured. They asked for them to release. So I brought the list to the President Karzai, and then President Karzai spoke to the Americans. So I went up and down a couple of times. They wouldn't release any.
So what happened?
So finally, I have to raise some money and stuff like that, and then pay them and get them the guy out of there.
Where did you get the money?
Some from family members, myself, and some from government as well.
Like how much did you pay? Can you say?
How
How much did they want for your uncle?
$12.5 million. That was the beginning. But I wouldn't say the amount. I think it's better not.
But do you go with a suitcase full of cash? How do you do the transaction?
Some I took with myself, and some through Pakistan. You know, this they call it Awala system. It's a banking system kind of thing. It's local banking system where you leave money here and then they take it from there. So Pakistan, they have good relations with those people. So hey, it was easy for them to. All you need to do is just transfer money to Pakistan, somebody there, and then they will take it from there.
But I kind of imagine, like, let's say you take the money, you want to meet them. Isn't the danger that when you give them the money, they were like, okay, we shoot you now. Thanks for the money. We keep your uncle.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Really? Oh.
When I transferred money and all that stuff, so they plan, because the big part of the money was supposed to be transferred. So they waited till they get complete everything. And then they kill him and me. That was the plan. Al-Qaeda commander planned that. And it's common sense that everybody can imagine that's going to happen. So I had my plans as well. Something happened. That commander got killed by drones. And then I renegotiated with a deputy.
You mean the Al-Qaeda commander that you negotiated with?
Yeah. He was killed.
Finally, a good drone strike.
Yeah. And then after that, I negotiated. And then I sent some people from Akani team, obviously paid. And then they had to take the ambassador, to another location. Then there I had my own plans. So basically, they failed with their plans. So I win. And I have to take him out of Waziristan. It's a long story. It wasn't easy. My life was online for more than 100 times that I get killed. But I said, no, I will not let they kill me or the ambassador.
So how long did it take? How many months or years until your
Almost
uncle
2
was...
years.
2 years.
And they moved him to 17 locations. and they tortured him big time. Yeah, so it was not easy at all.
Did your uncle know while he was imprisoned or captured that you were negotiating with them?
He found out like after, let's say, 7 months or something like that. He didn't know that he will make it, but in my few meetings with the Al-Qaeda chief, once they let me go and see him. So I went and I saw him, and then I told him that everything's going to be good. So since he was relaxed a bit, but still, it's not easy to trust those people.
Can you trust them at all, or only if you have something to offer?
You never trust on terrorists. Yeah.
So what did it feel like when you finally met your uncle? Like there must have been some point like, okay, here he is, and you were like waiting for him.
The first meeting was not easy. To see him the way he was, he was like, he lost weight and he was sick and everything. Sorry, can I? No problem. My throat. So yeah, that was tough for both of us, to see each other, in that situation. But then after, at the end, it was as well unbelievable to see him. He's released and bring him back, to Kabul. That was amazing.
What did your family say? Like,
family and friends, they all were waiting, all these years. Everybody was following this story. So when he was back here, this was like a dream come true when they saw him alive. So that was, I think, a good job, a dangerous job, but they were quite happy with what I achieved.
Are you the most famous family member now? Do they hold you like, oh my God, Mir Wise is the best?
I guess, everybody can see this, and yes, it was. I still am. And I'm still here in Afghanistan trying to help the country in every way possible. So, because this country needs a lot of help, and I want other Afghan that they are in Europe or America to come and build their country. Because if Germany send his soldiers and working hard here, I think our local or our nationals that they are staying there, they should come and help Afghanistan.
Do you think it's right that Germany forcefully deports Afghans back to Germany, back to Afghanistan? Or should the Afghans freely decide to, okay, I'm gonna come back?
Well, every country has rules, immigration rules, and nobody wants to have some people that they are not eligible, to stay in that country. If they're not suitable, to stay, they shouldn't stay. They should be kicked out. I don't think that's a problem.
Even your own people?
Even my own people. The reason is because I know we have problems here, but I think people should come by themselves and help this country, because everybody cannot just leave this country and go.
Right.
Once I left as well, But then there was that time. But I'm back. And there's a lot of people I know that they're back here and they're helping this country.
But you were not forced to go back. You went back on your own. Big difference.
Of course, it's a difference, but I think some people need some force, I guess. But every country has their own rules, as I said. I cannot say more about this because some people really want to leave this country and they are going there. Mm-hmm. And then when they send back, they're not happy about it. But I think the West and Americans, they should really help more to fix this country so nobody should leave. Mm-hmm. I think when the situation is bad, security is bad, people leaving. So that's why I'm saying, we're in the same boat. So if anything happened here, everybody gets it there in their country. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we should support each other more in order to not have those situations like refugees and all that.
I hope your voice allows one more small topic until we finish. The role of drugs in Afghanistan. Who is harvesting drugs and who is selling them? Who makes money with it?
It's all Taliban.
All Taliban.
Yeah, and terrorists. They're the one that in those cities that there's Taliban more in power, we have these drugs problems. Yes, we do have in some part, but the government is trying, to stop that. And it's not easy. It's a big war against drugs. And it might take long, but Taliban and terrorists, they get benefit from the drugs.
How?
Because, as you know, all our borders are open. None of our borders in control.
Why not? Why don't you control your borders?
It's not easy. We don't have enough soldiers or enough ammunition or support to do. Like, for example, Pakistan is 2,000 kilometers. That's not easy, to check and control that. So all around Afghanistan, you see, and with Iran as well. So we cannot really control those borders with what we have. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Taliban, they have these drugs and they cross the borders. And that's what I'm saying. So it's our neighbors. It's going through our neighbor countries to Europe or anywhere.
But who are they selling it to? Like, do the Taliban go to the Pakistani border? Like, who are they giving the...
It's a chain system, okay? So Taliban are in charge in Afghanistan, and then in Pakistan there's more people. They hand over to them, and then goes on and on and on to other countries. I think it's a normal procedure, how some drugs goes, from Afghanistan end up in Germany, for example. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of drug dealers that they make profit. So it's billions and billions dollars worth of business.
Billions.
Yeah.
Is that how the Taliban finances itself?
Yes, that's the only, sources they have. They finance themselves with this money.
But are they growing it themselves? Do they have their own fields?
No, they don't. The people are growing it, and then they're in charge of buying and selling and everything like that.
Do they make the people grow it, or do people just grow it by themselves?
They make people grow it. Some people, they grow it themselves anyway, because that's the only income they will have. Because there's no support, there's nothing. If you grow something else that won't benefit.
So it's kind of understandable why Afghans grow like poppies and all that.
In certain areas, yes, that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay, how can you fight it? Okay.
We need a lot of support from West, from everywhere. So yeah, we need a lot of support to stop this. So that's what I'm saying. We need military, financial, all kind of support.
Like we always ask the last question is like how long do you think we still have to be here?
It really depends on how fast your country, West, Americans help us to fix these problems. The sooner the better. If we work harder, I think this country will be fixed faster. But if we just leave it, like leave Pakistan and some other neighbors, create problem for us, and then nobody do anything about it, then it's gonna go forever. So the sooner everyone stop these neighbors from interfering and sending terrorists, I think we'll be fine.
Maybe we should bomb Pakistan then, or Iran.
Well, I don't see why not. At the end of the day, anywhere you see the problem, I think you should fix that. So if the problem is there, that need to be fixed and addressed to and shown to everywhere in the world that Afghanistan is suffering because of these countries.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.